All right, well, I'm talking about the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 in S30V steel, and why, we can use this knife for bushcraft. Now I'm talking in a limited scope. I would use a knife like this for smaller tasks, obviously, within its limitations. I would combine this with a hatchet or a heavier knife like I have here today, and a saw. This being S30V, it's a very good thing that we do not have a wide Scandinavian bevel. As I've stated in my bushcraft, hunting knives for bushcraft, one of the attributes of a hunting knife in the field is its ease of sharpening in the field, because you're sharpening a small bevel. And that's what we're doing here. We're sharpening a small bevel. And it being S30V, that's a very good thing. S30V has some very high wear resistance. So even though I know that this lock supposedly can hold up to about 160 some pounds of force directly down on this, I don't plan on subjecting it to that, obviously. That is extremely strong. And what fails is obviously the lock. So a blade of this thickness with S30V is perhaps a little overboard, seeing that everything else will fail before the blade. And with a nice premium steel like that, I would like to see, as I've stated, something a little bit thinner. But we have this, and this was also chosen by me for its pillar construction. While it may get some dirt and debris or whatever in there, it's very easy to clean, especially easy to clean in the field or at camp. If you're doing out game or fish or whatever it is, food prep, very easy to clean that out. The other thing I like about this too is if you are using this in gripping it in the proper area, and perhaps the meat on your hand engages this compression lock that Spyderco uses here, the compression lock. If it engages that, as you can see, it will not cut. The cutting edge will not hit my hand. This little blade kick down here, or what's been made as a choil there with the jimping, will stop the blade from that, from the connection. That is a great feature. I like that. Even though I would most likely not be pushing it into that extent, I do not trust the lock on any knife. I treat it as though that lock will fail. And that's a good rule of thumb to have. Don't trust the lock. I don't care if it says it holds 500 pounds. One time, if it doesn't, you're going to be the one, with a bad injury. And hopefully you're not miles away from help. Of course, if you choke up and use the choil here, you're not going to have any problems with the blade possibly coming in contact with your hand. So if we're doing something along these lines right here, and as I said, using this a little bit for bushcraft, perhaps you wanted to make a quick pair of snowshoes, ski shoes. Perhaps we're doing real quick campcraft, poncho shelters, little things like that. This knife will handle it. The very thing that makes this knife nice and easy to carry, this slim profile, is the same thing that will wear on your hand too. Excuse me, when we're doing some of these harder push cuts. The knife is plenty capable of it, and that nice full flat grind on there is superb. So, as I was saying, we have this 90-degree spine here, or near 90, at least close enough. I don't know how much more angled, coarse, sharp, if you will. I would want that for scraping things, because it does reside in a pocket, and your hands in and out grabbing change may come in contact with that. But I will tell you, it's another nice feature, as we can close the blade to scrape. It is sharp enough to process some of your tinders if need be, or scrape something down if you did not want to use the your cutting edge for that. I've said earlier as well, these knives are most likely to be with you because they're very unobtrusive. they can be in a pocket. Many times I forget I even have it on me. And, you got to go looking in the pair of pants that you wore yesterday because they're laying on the bed or they're hung back up and you forgot the knife in there. That's a great thing. That means that, you're most likely going to have this on you when you need it the most. Now, this is willow, so we're not talking about working, red oak here or, hard maple. But it does give you a decent idea of what we're working with here. Now, if I wanted to do a simple notch, bites in very nicely. Because of that slightly uncomfortable handle for these chores, myself and I would recommend that take your time with things. You're not going to go through wood like you would with your SE6 or your BK9 or whatever it is. You may have to take a few extra strokes with this to affect whatever it is that you're doing because of handle discomfort. Choose your wood wisely as well. If you're making figure 4 traps, try to choose a softer wood that's available for you. You should be doing anyways, unless you're trying to use the weight of some, real heavy rock in your figure 4 trap or whatever it is that you're doing. But as you can see, we have no problem there making a quick notch. Many times I do roll without a fixed blade. I definitely did in the past. I almost never had a fixed blade on me. It was a knife like this, hatchet, and a saw. And of course the hatchet sees most of the work. And let's face it, folks, most of the time you're not doing heavy cutting with your knife. Most of the time it is these small things like this. I wouldn't consider necessarily a notch like this in soft wood to be any heavy cutting. Definitely do not need a fixed full tang, 3/16 knife for something like this. And usually don't even need it to peel sticks either. So usually it's, you want to take your knife out, cut some cordage to do your lean-to, tie whatever it is. And quick in and out. And even when sitting, suppose that we're in a canoe, anything, your car, a canoe, Jeep, in and out very, very rapidly. So stay tuned here. I'm going to do a little bit of, hard cutting going through this stick, and we'll see how the knife performs for that. Hold on 1 second. I'll change the camera for you. All right, so usually we would use the reverse. I would say if I wanted to get through this to make a quick tent peg, and for some reason I didn't want to use another tool like my hatchet or my saw, whatever it might be, we could just use the Spyderco right here. I hope all of this is in view. And before I expose the sharp point for my tent peg there, put my notch up top here. Now this is a very, very crude looking tent peg. Just saw a little fox earlier. Nice sight to see running out here on the lake ice. So, I mean, as I said, is it the best knife to have to do real heavy cutting? Of course not. It isn't. I mean, just look at it. Anyone knows it's common sense. And if you try to have a folder or make a folder that will do real heavy push cutting, then you're not really in the spirit of a good folding knife at that point. It's probably more bulky in your pocket. maybe heavy, and your chances of carrying it get lower and lower. Once again, there's that notch there that was made. Boring into something like this, not an issue. As I said, I do not trust that lock, so if I'm boring, depending on the angle, but how I'm doing it here, I'm going to keep my fingers out of the way here. But we're not pushing this tool. There's no need to push this outside of its parameter, all right, of what it's really designed to do. But having something quick and easy on you for access is always a good thing. We'll have more on this knife, of course. Spyderco Paramilitary 2 for Bushcraft. Thanks for watching. Take care.